Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight.
Down!
The moment killer Marcus Osborne was arrested, as tonight he begins a whole life sentence for the murder of a couple in Huddersfield.
There is so much we could say about the monster who took Katie away from us. A man, if he can be called that, whose name does not deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as hers.
An expert in domestic homicide says police missed opportunities to safeguard his victims. Also tonight, South Yorkshire police are accused of covering up their actions during the miners' strike of 1984. And a sellout crowd turn out to watch England's Six Nations rugby squad bring their training to York.
It is my melancholy duty to call upon the Treasurer to make the necessary disbursement.
And Bradford-born actor Timothy West comes home to Yorkshire to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award.
And I think there'll be plenty of these about this evening after the wet day that we've had, and we will have wet weather for some of the weekend, but not all of it. I'll be back later in the programme with a full forecast.
Hello, thank you for your company on this Friday evening. A man who murdered his ex-partner and her new boyfriend in Huddersfield has been told he will spend the rest of his life in prison. A rare whole life order was handed down to Marcus Osborne for the ferocious stabbings of Katie Higton and Stephen Harnett. There was criticism today of West Yorkshire Police after it emerged Katie had told officers that Osborne was threatening to kill her. This report from our social affairs correspondent Emma Glasby contains some very distressing details.
Down!
The moment Marcus Osborne was arrested for murdering his ex-partner and her new boyfriend, he'll now spend the rest of his life in prison for the killings that were motivated by sexual jealousy.
You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence.
Katie Higton and Stephen Harnett's friends and families sobbed as they heard the harrowing details of their murders. Katie had 99 injuries. There were children in the house at the time of the murders.
I'm in no doubt. This is a case of such exceptional seriousness that even a very long minimum term would not amount to just punishment. What you did that night was horrific.
Outside court, a statement was read on behalf of Katie Higton's family.
We will miss her laughter, her fun and jokes, and we will never again have the joy of loving messages from her at special times or spending precious moments with her. There is so much we could say about the monster who took Katie away from us. A man, if he can be called that, whose name does not deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as hers.
Katie and Stephen had been murdered in ferocious attacks in her home in Huddersfield. Katie had contacted West Yorkshire Police 4 days beforehand to report that her ex had been violent and was threatening to kill her. Osborne, who had a history of attacks on female partners, was arrested and bailed. 3 days later, he carried out the murders. Stephen Harnett's devastated brother today called on police to do better.
If the police had listened to her originally when she initially reached out to ask for help, I sincerely believe that she and my brother Stephen might still be here today. This story is too common and we need to change the narrative so that when women go to the police reporting a threat from an abuser, they are listened to and that the police act swiftly and that they are protected and kept safe.
Today, West Yorkshire Police faced questions about why Osborne was freed on bail.
The release on bail was to allow further investigation and to prepare a file of evidence to send to the CPS for a charging decision.
But he had a history of attacking his partners.
When he was released on bail, bail conditions were imposed to stop him contacting Katie or to going to her address. And in addition, a domestic violence protection notice was imposed.
Following the murders of Katie and Stephen, the police watchdog, the IOPC, says it's looking at this case and whether to make any recommendations. Emma Glasby, BBC Look North.
Well, Professor Jane Monckton-Smith is a criminologist and an expert in domestic homicide. She told me she was pleased with the sentence.
When I heard that they'd handed out a whole life sentence, I was really pleased because, you know, more than most cases, I think this case deserved that.
Osborne had threatened to kill Katie in the days leading up to her murder. She went to the police to inform them of this. Did they let her down?
I think there were opportunities missed there to be able to safeguard Katie adequately and to prevent this homicide. Yes, the signs were there. They could have acted more quickly on those signs.
West Yorkshire Police said that they were actually in an urgent meeting discussing Katie's case when they were informed that she had in fact been murdered. In your opinion, what were the red flags that should have meant that this was escalated sooner?
Well, when Katie went to the police, she did tell them that Osborne had a history. Now, that's your first red flag. He had a history of serious violence and domestic abuse against other partners. He also had been coercively controlling to Katie, which is the single biggest predictor for homicide, especially when there has been a separation and they are not taking that separation well. However, in this case, the red flags went beyond that. He had made threats to kill, but not only threats to kill, very, very specific threats to kill. So in my opinion, all of those things put together suggested imminence of homicide, not just that there might be one.
It was only last week that the force was criticised for not protecting women who had gone to them about threats of violence from partners or ex-partners and then gone on to be murdered. Are they taking domestic abuse seriously enough?
I think that for most police, and certainly it seems West Yorkshire Police, they are seeing the signs, but still not recognising how very dangerous they are. People do not consistently or normally threaten to kill their partners. They don't consistently beat them if it's just a normal relationship. So I think there's been enough training now across the years of police in how dangerous coercive control is and how dangerous it gets, even more dangerous when there's been a separation. So really, and they had, another thing, they had said that she was high risk. Now, if they thought she was high risk, why did it take 5 days before they had the multi-agency meeting? And why was he arrested and then released straight away?
Professor Jane Monckton-Smith, thank you for your time. Well, in response to criticism, West Yorkshire Police said thorough reviews have been carried out. The results of an investigation by the Forces Professional Standards Directorate have now been submitted to the Independent Office for Police Conduct for final review, and some further inquiries are now being carried out at their request. Next tonight, South Yorkshire Police has been accused of continuing a cover-up of its actions during the miners' strike after it delayed allowing public access to its archives. The Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign says that force records are key to finding out how much the government at the time was involved in the way that the strike was policed. Now, the Battle of Orgreave was the most violent day of the year-long strike, leaving around 120 people injured. 2 years ago, South Yorkshire Police said that its miners' archives, totalling more than 80,000 pages, would be open to the public. And despite around £340,000 of taxpayers' money being spent on the archives, no documents have yet emerged. David Rhodes has been investigating.
There were like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 policemen. And the horses came down. There's not many times in my life I've been as scared as that.
Kevin, a former South Yorkshire miner, was arrested on the most infamous day of the miners' strike, the so-called Battle of Orgreave. He and other miners want to look at the police files before time slips away.
People are dying every week. I've got a list of the 95 charged on that day, and every week I'm crossing names off.
Do you think it's sensible in these conditions to use horses, which seem to be the most provocative instrument that you have?
Yeah. You see, I've been asked this question so often, but what is the alternative? The missiles were flying, my officers were trapped.
South Yorkshire Police were at the centre of the most bitter industrial dispute of the 20th century that forever changed Yorkshire and the North Midlands. Government files relating to the miners' strike have been open to the public for decades, but the records from 1984 held by South Yorkshire Police have been kept secret.
Those police operations are quite important because they will reveal a lot about, the state involvement and the militarised nature of policing during Orgreave and during the miners' strike, and we want to see that.
In 2022, the force asked the Police and Crime Commissioner of South Yorkshire, Alan Billings, to approve a priority request from the then Deputy Chief Constable Tim Forber to spend £340,000 of taxpayers' money on preparing the miners' files to be published, a project that would take 2.5 years. The BBC's request to access the archive this year was rejected by the force.
I think the cover-up's continuing. I mean, hopefully we will get the information out, and I'm sure there's a lot more.
South Yorkshire Police have told us their intention is to publish the documents, and a small team has archived the materials and are now cataloguing these and ensuring they are aligned with the requirements of GDPR, as they will in some circumstances include personal information. This work is expected to take a further 18 months.
We will never have the full truth about Hillsborough until we have the full truth about Orgreave.
The files may also shed further light on a dark decade. Police tactics used in 1984 to try and criminalise striking miners were used again in 1989, when falsely the force tried to blame Liverpool fans for causing the Hillsborough Stadium disaster.
There is an overwhelming case for an independent inquiry into Orgreave, similar to the one we had with Hillsborough.
The current government has ruled out holding an inquiry into the policing of the miners' strike, which is now a 40-year-old story. But until the police files are opened, some feel it is a story that has not yet been fully told. David Rhodes, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Let's take a look now at some of the stories coming into our newsroom. There's been major disruption on the trains today as drivers from the ASLEF union went on strike. No northern trains ran at all and only reduced service on most of the LNER route. The union says it's because the companies are persistently failing to comply with existing arrangements. This is separate to the ongoing dispute over pay. The holiday company Jet2 has paid a settlement to the family of a man from Yorkshire who died from Legionnaire's disease caught at a hotel in Bulgaria. 75-year-old Brian Taylor from Huddersfield was one of 4 people diagnosed with the illness after staying at a hotel in 2019. Jet2 says its thoughts remain with Mr Taylor's family and friends, and it would be inappropriate to make any other comment. Sunday will mark 10 weeks to go until the Rob Borough Leeds Marathon and Half Marathon. Melanie Hartley took part in the event last year, not very long after being diagnosed with cancer. Now, sadly, the cancer has progressed, but she's not let that stop her. She's currently in the training for this year's race and has recruited 50 other people to join her. I went for one of her training sessions.
I have days on chemotherapy where I might be more tired or I might feel nauseous, but get out, do a run, do some exercise, and actually it resets and helps the mindset as well. I think exercise is medicine, and it definitely has been for me.
Cancer will not stop Melanie doing what she loves. In May last year, at the age of 39, just weeks before her first marathon, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, but still determined to cross the finish line.
I 100% wanted to tackle that marathon and with a massive smile on my face, and that's exactly what I did. 3 days later, I went into the chemo chair, started a gruelling chemotherapy regime, but I took my medal with me. So I was sat there with my medal thinking, if I can do the marathon, I can do this.
Weeks after surgery, Melanie learnt the cancer had spread. Newly married and with a 5-year-old daughter, she's been told her cancer is incurable. How are you and how are your family coping with the stage you're at the moment?
There's dark moments, there is, and you know, it's just about how to channel that. You can think, oh, why me? But you know, on the other side, well, why not? It's going to get 1 in 2 people, apparently. So it's how we deal with it and how we choose to deal with it, to me, that's important. So I'm up to about 8 mile at the moment.
She's dealing with it by running the Robborough Half Marathon alongside 50 family members and friends. It's giving Melanie a focus and a chance to create a legacy with the money they raise.
I want to make a direct impact to people. I want to be able to help them fund a little night away with their husbands or the children and make some memories. And this is for people who've got cancer and perhaps a stage 4 diagnosis like myself, who can't afford those little luxuries.
How has having cancer changed your outlook on life?
Massively. I definitely do not sweat the small stuff anymore, and you really do have to concentrate on family time and making memories and achieving goals like this. I feel as though I'm living with cancer and that it's not defining me as a person.
What an incredible woman she is. Good luck on race day, Melanie, and I hope you beat your husband, because I know that's one of your targets for the day. Sally's here now with the latest sport. Treat for Rugby Union fans in York today, Sal.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. England's rugby men were in York this morning for an open training session ahead of their next Six Nations game next weekend. 8,500 tickets were sold to spectators keen to see their favourite players up close. We were there.
Rugby fans gathering outside York's community stadium, not for a game, but to watch England's Rugby Union team train.
I think the last time they come from outside of Twickenham was maybe like the World Cup 9 years ago to Manchester, so just like a really good chance to see them without going all the way down to London.
Yeah, it's massive. Lads obviously buzzing for it as well. It'll be a good day all round, I think, for them.
Are you excited about today?
Yeah, I'm well excited. I just really want to meet Joe Marler.
Who's here as an England rugby fan?
Players from Cleckheaton RUFC were given special pitchside access, a reward for being one of Yorkshire's fastest growing clubs, including its girls and women's teams.
It's the first women's team down at Cleckheaton, and it started to grow a lot better now, so that should be good.
I also like the adrenaline of it when you're playing, and you're really motivated to try score a try if you can.
This open training session has attracted a lot of spectators. 8,500 tickets sold. Not everyone's turned up, but it ain't half bad for a weekday morning.
I know, it's pretty special, isn't it? It just shows the attraction, doesn't it, of the England team getting out and about. And that's something we want to do as England Rugby. And next year, we'll have the England women's team playing around the country as well, starting off up north in Sunderland for the World Cup. So it's a great time to take the game to people as well.
England has homegrown talent in its side. Leeds Rhinos legend Kevin Sinfield is assistant coach, and scrum half Danny Kerr began his rugby career with Otley and the Leeds Tykes.
So, do England still have time if they can score?
But after defeat at Murrayfield, England must win their next 2 games to remain in contention for the Six Nations title. It's a big ask, so every training session counts.
This week's an important week for us, not only to regenerate the players, physically, mentally, but also to get ourselves best prepared as we can to start the test week on Sunday, which is massively important for us. Very much looking forward to it, and being here in York has been a massive part of that.
As Rugby Union continues to grow the game in this part of the world, today's training turnout shows fans are ready and waiting to watch.
Now, our football fixture list this weekend is dominated by 2 Yorkshire derbies in the Championship. In West Yorkshire, Huddersfield Town and their visitors Leeds United have different reasons for needing to win, but the South Yorkshire derby for Rotherham United against Sheffield Wednesday will be about as tense as it gets in the battle to avoid relegation. Here's Paul Ogden.
Played 34, lost 21. It's been a cruel slog of a season for Rotherham United. Bottom of the Championship with 2 months left tells us that time is running out for the Millers. Rotherham's visiting neighbours tomorrow, Sheffield Wednesday, are still in trouble as well, despite their 13-point advantage. But there is something about the way their recently appointed coach Danny Röhl has taken the Hillsborough job on. 3 wins from their last 4 games have given their fans genuine hope.
I'm not sure that everybody was convinced 4 months ago that we are now in this position. Yeah, maybe some guys were thinking, oh, maybe it's the first relegation team, and now we have a big opportunity to stay in the league.
But first, tomorrow lunchtime, Huddersfield Town's new boss, Andre Brighton-Reiter, makes his home debut with the Terriers against none other than Leeds United, coached by another German, his old acquaintance, Daniel Farke. seeking a record 10th league win on the trot to help strengthen their current position, second in the Championship table, odds on for a return to the Premier League.
It would be not very clever to speak about our plan for Saturday. We know about the players, and yes, and some players were my former players in Hoffenheim and in Zurich. So I will know them during the 90 minutes.
André is also pretty experienced coach. He has managed also in several derbies. For example, in Germany, he was once a coach of Schalke 04. When they play against Borussia Dortmund, you're just allowed to speak about your opponent in postcodes, and you can't use the name of the opponent. It's quite good. I like this a little bit.
Leeds United, who we shall name, probably won't even be in the Championship next season to influence again what goes on at the bottom of the division. Their next three opponents are Huddersfield Town, Stoke City and Sheffield Wednesday a week tonight. Paul Ogden, BBC Look North.
Netball now, and the Leeds Rhinos have their first home game of the Super League season. The Rhinos don't have one official home ground, so tomorrow's game against Cardiff is being played at the Cannon Medical Arena in Sheffield. And the team are looking forward to a Yorkshire crowd getting behind them.
Just the sense of getting Yorkshire behind us, getting the crowd behind us, I think we really need it to then really uplift and boost our performance, because I think that Mavs game, if we had some crowd behind us, it could have been a whole different game. So yeah, we're buzzing to have Yorkshire behind us, and we really can't wait to see everyone there.
And that for now is your sport, Amy.
Sally, thank you very much. Now, the Bradford-born actor Timothy West is being honoured tonight with a special award from the Yorkshire Society. One of our best-loved and most versatile actors, he's played hundreds of roles both on stage and on screen, from performing Shakespeare to leading roles in Last Tango in Halifax and Gentleman Jack. He certainly is a familiar face to millions of us. Phil Bodmer caught up with him and asked him what it means to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award.
I feel very proud, but rather surprised. But that's nice. I'm very fond of Yorkshire, and I'm pleased that they take an interest in me. Really.
You grew up in Bradford.
Well, I was born in Bradford. I've come to work in Bradford and Leeds and various other places in Yorkshire.
Your face is familiar to millions of our viewers. You've been on stage, you've been on television dramas for as long as I can remember. Looking back over your career, is there any particular role or moment that stands out? I imagine that's really hard to work out.
Well, yes, the thing that I would remember, because I love it the most, was Brass.
What was it about that made you enjoy it so much?
I loved it. It was beautifully written, and it ought to be done with an audience, on the set, in order to make it clear that it's funny. I said, it's not the way the way to make it funny is not to say it's funny. And we finally got them to agree.
On a personal note, if I may say so, I especially enjoyed the Great Canal journeys with yourself and Prue. What was that like to make?
Oh, it was great fun to do. And we learnt an awful lot about canals that we were interested in anyway, but we learned a bit more about it. We argued with each other quite a lot, but it was fun.
And how is Prue, can I ask?
Prue's all right. Sorry not to be here today. She's got a bad cold, so it was better not to. But she's managing.
For any young aspiring actors, actresses, what would be your advice to them to have a successful career?
Find your own way somehow. People do, and there are a lot of very encouraging young people visible now, and that's very good. I like that.
Well, that's a lovely note to end on. Timothy, pleasure to meet you, and good luck tonight, and thank you for talking to us today.
What an absolute legend he is. Yes, have a brilliant evening. I loved him in Gentleman Jack. Thought it was great.
Yes, you've just been talking about it for the whole of that.
I know.
She's a big fan.
I am a fan. What's going on with the weather? Miserable today. Gives a bit of sunshine.
I know. You'll have to wait maybe till Sunday. Next week actually doesn't look too bad at all.
Snow?
Yes, first day of meteorological spring. And winter return. So yeah, we did have some snow across some of the higher routes. Home Moss here looking very wintry indeed. Temperatures really struggled today. I didn't get much above around 4 or 5 degrees, and still some snow on the ground near Barnsley this afternoon. A little bit of snow perhaps for some of the higher routes through the weekend, but that's certainly not the main thrust of the weather. But tomorrow it does look a little bit miserable. You can get your pictures coming into the BBC Weather Watchers page. We're on social media as well. Keely.Donovan on Instagram. Keely Donovan on Twitter. So yes, Sunday certainly looks like the better of the 2 days. Tomorrow, not quite as bad as today, but it's cool, it's cloudy, and there'll be plenty of showery rain around, a little bit of sleet and snow to higher ground. And then Sunday certainly looks drier. There could be some lingering mist and fog, quite a lot of cloud, but hopefully brighter too. Monday, not too bad. And then this weather system moves in Monday into Tuesday before high pressure dominates the weather for much of next week. So there could be a lot of fine and settled weather to come. This is the radar picture. You can see this weather system, which is now starting to clear away northwards out of parts of North Yorkshire, but following on behind we still have a fair amount of showery bits and pieces of rain, so it may well be we have a drier slot, some clear spells, and then we get another bout of showery rain. Could bring a little bit of sleet or snow to the North York moors, and we're looking at a frost overnight as well, so a cold night to come with temperatures down to around freezing 1 or 2 degrees. Let's have a little look at those high water times then. At 8:23 in Bridlington, and then at 8:33 tomorrow evening in Bridlington as well. So a frosty start to the day tomorrow, cloudy and a bit of mist out there too, and then showery rain spreading up from the south. It'll continue to feed up through the course of the day. A lot of cloud out there, a little bit of sleet and hill snow right up over the tops. We might get some brightness just moving into eastern parts later in the afternoon, but overall it is quite a cloudy story and cool once again. Temperatures perhaps a smidge higher than today, getting up to around 6 or 7 degrees, but that's pretty disappointing for the beginning of March. Frosty again into Sunday. Some mist and fog, which I mentioned could linger through the day, but it will be a dry day, hopefully brighter too, and the start of the week does look pleasant as well.
I was going to say tomorrow looks like a duvet day, but you never get the chance of that with kids, do you?
Absolutely not, but yeah, try and get them under there as well.
Too many kids clubs for that one. That's it from us. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye for now.